and you have all the capabilities, but your security analyst, he or she doesn't have. So in that case, it is very difficult to find out the threats existing in a network. Now, organizations has to think, or their threat hunters has to uh, know the techniques for the threat hunting. So the threat hunter can use any of these techniques which you can see on the screen. It can be searching from the logs, which is just search for the IOCs. It is to leverage whatever the data you have and search for the IOCs. The problem is with that this kind of searching is that if you don't have the particular data or you have not enabled the data collection, then searching the IOCs will not give you the actual result or the result which you are looking for. Clustering is the technique where you're looking, it is looking for some anomalies in the logs. For example, the Apache web server logs, you're looking for any anomalies. So this is a kind of a unstructured threat hunting. Whereas grouping is the opposite of clustering. In grouping, we group with respect to the particular uh, activity. It can be inbound or outbound logs. And for example, if you're looking for the reversals in inbound and outbound traffic logs, that can be example of grouping. Whereas stack counting is a different approach. It is an approach of filtering the individual entities like parameters or the processes. And once the data stack is established, then look for the odds, and that can characterize the activity. For example, the processes running on a computer in on a specific day, that can be collected and look for the odds in that particular data stack. And if you can look for the anomalies or the odds, maybe the notepad.exe is talking to the https protocol. So that is known as stack counting. The other section in another phase of the threat hunting is the hypothesizing the endpoints, how you are configuring the endpoints and for what kind of the data has to be collected. So the endpoint is basically more into the digging into more into the operating system level. So uh, why the attacker will bring their own tools and the payloads when they know that it is all the executables are already existing, and these are the trusted utilities. So lolbins is the signed network binaries living off the land binaries. So these uh, executables can be uh, abused or misused by the attackers. So the most common example is the mster.exe. So in mster.exe is the very favorite for the adversaries because it work as a trusted utility in our systems, and this can be exploited. So there is another hypothesis like an attackers can going to use the mimikatz or other password sealer, and they can recompile it for the attack purpose. So these kind of based on these kind of hypotheses, the rules can be created for the collection of the data at the endpoint level. Or and another is that to look for any obfuscated kind of payloads in the registry. But the important point is that how we are going to detect it. So there are two ways. One is using the auto runs. You can see the screenshot on the left hand side. But l- in the auto runs, you can check for the anomalies and you can go and try to find out what are the obfuscated payloads or any of the parent processes calling launching the another process, the child process. So all those things you can look out here, but it is not scalable. You cannot go on the each of the endpoint and do it. So you need some enterprise EDR tool to do it. And how and what kind of the data has to be collected for the response purpose, that has to be decided depending upon the hunt scope. What are the devices? What are the which OS operating systems are there to find out the TTPs. So This really required a complete integrated EDR tool to run the complicated queries, and it can bring the information in a format that can be used for finding the anomalies. So, for example, the tools like OS Creator, Velociraptor, which are the open source options. But for enterprise, this is just for example that 10 or Microsoft Defender with Sentinel, which can be help to create the scope for the hunt. And some of the enterprises they are using it. So in the endpoint detection and the data collection and the response, the EDR agents has to be deployed on the scope devices. So once the threat hunting is completed, like we have seen that now we have created the hypothesis, the preparation was completed for the threat hunting, data has been collected and analyzed. Then the threat hunter did all the use the threat hunting techniques to find out the TTPs, but the threat hunter may or may not get the TTPs based on the objective of that threat hunting, the hypothesis. So what they can do other than this with the outcome, they can create a playbook. Threat hunters can create a playbook for their organizations, and you can use this playbook for the automation in detection and monitoring, which can be improved in your organization. So thank you so much for your time, and stay tuned for the next session, which will be EDR based threat hunting and the incident response. Thank you.